Millions of Planet Fitness members are defeating low energy and finding their big fitness energy. And right now, you can join them for just $1 down and $10 a month. That's so nice, I think I'll say it twice. You can join Planet Fitness for $1 down and $10 a month. No commitment. Cancel anytime. What a deal! Join the judgment-free zone today and enjoy tons of equipment in a clean and spacious club. $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime. Deal ends Wednesday, April 5th. See Home Club for details.
Too loud to hear your podcast? Escape the noise with the new AirPods Pro. With up to 2 times more active noise cancellation than the previous generation. Learn more at apple.com/AirPods Pro.
Big Tobacco targets Black and brown communities with tobaccos like menthol, which are harder to quit. Join me and demand Albany end the sales of all flavored tobacco because tobacco kills.
Paid for by the Tobacco Free Kids Action Fund.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Howdy, team. Hopefully you're doing great today. I mean, I'm doing, probably maybe like a 6 out of 10. I think that's probably the best anybody else can do these days. But you are here to listen to independent music, chatter, as it were, or an interview. I don't really like to look at these as interviews because it's more of a discussion. And I know so many other podcasts are just like, yeah, dude, it's just like a fly in the wall conversation. Of course it's not that, because I want you to feel like you're going somewhere, like you're on a journey and you're actually going to end up, understanding this person a little bit better than you did previously. But anyways, enough of that. You are here to listen to Jay Laughlin from Turning Point, Godspeed. He currently plays in a band called Honey, and he's put out a ton of music over his life and his career. But Turning Point, let's be honest, just like one of the legendary bands within the hardcore scene. I remember I speak to this in the interview. I told you I wouldn't call it an interview, but anyways, I speak to this in our chat where the split that they did with No Escape just really opened up my world in regards to bands being able to expand past whatever they started as. And that split is so important to me, and I loved it. And then just looking at Godspeed, like Godspeed was so important to me as well, because I remember I bought the Swimmer's Ear EP and I was kind of like, I wonder what's up with the ex Turning Point guys, like what they did afterwards. And I listened to it and I was just blown away at the emotional content behind that, and just like the musicianship, and it's just really cool. So, anyways, Jay was kind enough to hop on the good old computer machine, and we were able to have a great chat. And if you have missed it, Turning Point is reissuing their entire discography on Revelation Records, and it's I'm very excited about it. It's really cool. They've released their demo so far, and like some demo inspired T-shirts and a bunch of great stuff. So it's exciting. Turning Point is like back in our lives in like a really real way, and you're gonna be able to find all this stuff on pre-orders on Revelation Records, and so yeah, check that out. But yeah, I appreciate those of you that email the show, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. Always like to have interactions with people from that perspective. And I also encourage you to share this with your friends who are into punk, hardcore, indie rock, whatever it is. They should probably know about this show, because that's the world we traffic in. So that's what we got. Let's dive into the conversation with Jay.
I'm 40 years old, and so I got hit with Turning Point. I mean, clearly after you guys had stopped playing and everything like that. But the thing that I reflect on with the band the most is that a lot of people speak about the idea that like, oh man, you guys wrote the best material like at the very, very end of the band's like life, and like the idea of where you guys could have gone musically after that. And that is what I personally believed as well as I started to get into Turning Point and understanding the catalog and everything like that. Musically, like in your head, is it one of those things like, do you ever reflect on like, oh man, if we had like, 6 more months or like another year, like what another full length would have sounded like, or that sort of stuff? Or is it just kind of like, well, we obviously poured that into our other musical endeavors afterwards?
I actually talked to all the guys about this. Like when we did this, got back together in 2016, we discussed this, and yeah, obviously everybody loves the latest material, and I think it's the best stuff too. But when we were doing it, when we were actually writing that and playing it live, it went over like people are just not into it. I mean, that really was part of the reasons that we broke up.
Right.
We felt like we were making this music, like we were kind of advancing, and the hardcore crowd just was not accepting of what we were doing. Not that they didn't like boo us or anything, but it just seemed like people were not really interested, and that's kind of when we called it a day. You know what I mean? So, and then it went on. We went on to do the Godspeed stuff, so that was like a natural progression.
Right.
But I mean, it's funny now that that's the most popular.
Right.
Like that's what people like the most, because when we were doing it, we were like, wow, like maybe this isn't so good.
Yeah. No one cares about this stuff. Like, once we start to, insert melody and have like a little more musicality to ourselves, people are like, hey, where's like the simple, basic hardcore you guys were doing? Right.
Well, some of the songs, it started with like clean guitar intros, these like things that I would write, and I'd play them live, and kids are like looking at me, staring at me, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, why is he playing a clean guitar?
Right.
Like weird acoustic intro thing. But,
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing it's one of those things where it makes sense, obviously, why you guys, were like, okay, well, this is kind of the end of the rope. As far as just like, well, okay, like people aren't caring about our musical vision from this perspective. And it's not like you had any illusions of grandeur of like, oh yeah, like we're going to be, we're going to make a living off of our music playing a hardcore band.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because it didn't. I presume at the time too, it was one of those things that probably just due to your age and everything like that. It was very like reactionary. It was just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we'll wrap this thing up and then do this other thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So putting the focus on like you as an individual, were you actually born and raised in New Jersey, or where did you come up?
Yeah, I was born. I was raised in Morristown, New Jersey. It's like South Jersey.
Got it. And what was the, I guess, what would you kind of describe the surroundings? Like, was it a suburb? Was it, kind of obviously spitting distance from Philly, but, what was your experience growing up?
It was like middle class suburbs. But the town I grew up in was kind of like split in half. I went to school with a lot of very, very well-to-do kids, very wealthy. And I lived on the other side of town where it was like more working class, that's what, me and, Skip Singer, Turning Point, he grew up right around the block from me. And, so we lived very similar lives. I mean, pretty much exactly the same, but, it's just normal suburban stuff, nothing crazy. It wasn't like, an awful place to live by any means.
Sure. And what was the family structure? I know you have an older brother. Did you have any other siblings? And was mom and dad in the house?
Yeah. Both my parents were around. I have 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother. So there's 4 of us. I guess.
Wow, all four boys. That's a pretty rambunctious household, I'm guessing.
Yeah, my poor mom.
Especially too, where I'm sure by the time your parents were rolling around to the 3rd, it was like, well, maybe I'll have a girl this time. Nope, I guess not.
Well, I think that's how my younger brother came about.
That was the hope. It was like, all right, finally we'll get a girl.
Yeah, they're shooting for it, and then that was that.
Right. And so, what was your I mean, since you weren't kind of the baby of the group, I mean, you were for a little bit. What was your relationship with your parents and your siblings? Were you guys like all generically speaking kind of getting along, or the usual fights with brothers and that sort of stuff?
I mean, there's the usual fights with brothers and stuff, but I think to this day, the reason I kind of still play music incessantly is my father was never really, he was around, but he was never like really emotionally around. He did not support what I did, from when I started in fifth grade. He'd always just be like, you can't play music. You're going to, you'll never make it. You'll never, it'll just never happen. And he was just like a distant person. He was just never really there. He paid the bills and stuff. And,
right. Like he was physically present, but like you said, not,
but yeah, not emotionally, you know what I mean? And, I still don't really speak to him to this day now, but,
got it. So there was an intentionality at a certain point where you're like, okay, like this is not this relationship is not healthy for me as an adult.
Yeah, correct. You know what I mean? It's like when I finally moved out of my house, and his house. It's like it was just a weird situation. He didn't even like really ask for my phone number or my address. That kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's like he was there, but he not really. And
was he like that with all, like I guess, kind of all of your siblings and your mother as well?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's I'll speak for myself, but yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, me and my brothers, obviously, we got along great. We're still, me and my brother Chris and my younger brother Dave are still like super, super close. We talk all the time and hang out all the time.
Nice.
We're all like music obsessives, like go to shows together and,
right.
Just hang out, listen to music together and stuff. So, it definitely was not all bad for sure.
Sure. And so I'm guessing because, of the relationship that you had with your father, did you and your brothers kind of, really gravitate and attach yourself to your mother?
Yeah, for sure.
Got it. She was kind of the emotional backbone, as it were.
Yeah, she was. And she was definitely the one that was like, kind of, if you enjoy doing it, follow your dreams, go for it kind of stuff. She was very supportive in the, when I was just getting into music and young, my father worked nights and I started out playing drums. So, when I finally got a proper drum set, like the second I left the house, she was like, play your drums. I could play for hours. When my father was home, I couldn't touch them.
Right. Because you would disturb him. Right.
Yeah, yes. It's kind of like the, a quick funny story. One, my dad, he worked two jobs. He worked nights and then he worked days on the weekends. I didn't think he was home. So I came home from whatever I was doing and I got behind my drum set and started playing drums. It was like down in this like storage area in our house. And he opened up the door and I didn't even see him. And he grabbed these broken drumsticks and just started whipping them at my head. Like, scared the shit out of me, I was just like kind of jamming out and like all of a sudden these sticks go flying by my head and I turn up and he's just like, just give me this glare. I was like, shit, I did not know you were home.
Yeah, my bad. Right.
Yeah, my bad. But that was his reaction,
Right. He's like, what are you doing creatively expressing yourself? Stop it. It's loud. Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to sleep, you little prick.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's cool that your mom recognized the, boundaries of the household, so to speak. But at the same time, like, was there to be able to recognize like, okay, Jay, like, here we go. Like, this is the time. Let's do it.
Yeah. It was like party time. It was like he took off for work, and it was like, all right, cool. Now everybody can kind of do what they want to do.
Right. Did your I'm guessing your mom was a full-time mom, like taking care of you guys at the house. Got it.
Yeah.
And so, from what I understand, just in previous interviews and stuff like that, your older brothers, was it both your older brothers that were, kind of, I guess, passing down music to you and kind of giving you that knowledge, or where were you kind of piecing that stuff together from?
Yeah, when I was super young, both my older brothers were, got into, like heavy metal, Kiss, what I mean? Like they were obsessed with Kiss, and their whole bedroom was just covered in Kiss pictures and stuff. So that was like definitely a huge influence. And then my aunt on my mom's side, she wasn't really our aunt. It was just like it's like one of my mom's best friends. We called her our aunt. She got us tickets to see Kiss in '84. So I was like a little kid, and we went to that concert, and that kind of changed everything. And then both my older brothers from every concert they went from then, my mom would make them take me, which I'm sure was probably a drag.
Sure.
But it's like, all right, you can go to the Judas Priest concert, but you got to take Jay, because I was super into it. So I would tag along to all those shows with those guys, and I guess that's kind of where the obsession started.
Nice. And what, I can kind of make a guess as to why that music was attractive to you, but what kind of drew you into, like, once you started to see, Kiss and a lot of these, for lack of a better term, theatrical rock bands, what kind of drew you in? Was it, the musicality? Was it kind of the whole package? What spoke to you?
I mean, Kiss is just, they look cool and evil.
Right. Sure.
I was drawn to that, and the songs are cool. But as I got like a little bit older, and going to these shows, it's less like, at first they're like superheroes, when you're really little, you go to these shows, they don't even seem human. Like, you're like, what the fuck? Like, just the spectacle of it all. But when I got a little bit older, you go to these shows and I start to realize, like, oh, these are just dudes, like, that just practiced a lot, you know what I mean? Like, right. Oh, they're just human beings, and that's when I got the, I was like, all right, well, I want to do this. I want to be in Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. and I was always attracted to the drummers, because it was like, you're young and you're angry, and it's like, what better to do than hit shit real hard.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's how I gravitated towards drums. But it was like, it was just that moment of being in these big rock shows and being close enough and seeing enough of them that, like, oh yeah, it's just a guy that didn't cut his hair and practices guitar a lot,
Totally. I also like the idea of getting drawn to drums as being quote unquote easier, because there's no technical notes, Yeah.
It's
like, I just hit it hard and, like, it makes that sound. Like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like you can kind of almost close your eyes and still do it.
Right. And what kind of kid did you find yourself, being as you started to develop a little bit of your own identity, whatever, late elementary school, junior high and stuff like that? Were you, kind of that weirdo art kid? Were you that sports dude? I'm painting a very broad stereotype on you, but, what sort of group did you kind of, fall into?
Well, I started taking drum lessons in the 5th grade. And I was really hooked on that. So I was definitely like a music kid, but I was into, I got into BMXing and playing drums, and then skateboarding came in. Mm-hmm. So, I was always like, I guess, just kind of turned into like that punk rock skater kid.
Right.
But, I never really felt like a total outcast as a kid, because I was good at sports. Like, it just, very coordinated, and it got to a point that, like, we would have, let's say, basketball in gym class, and I would be playing basketball, and they'd pull me aside, the coaches, and like, man, you got to join the team. Like, we need you on this team. And I was like, just not into it. Like, I wanted to skateboard and I wanted to play my drums, and I started playing shows early in high school, and it's like, if there's shit on the weekends, like, I'm not going to play football or basketball. I'm going to play a show.
Right.
Playing with my friends. So, like, I was definitely, just like, I dyed my hair weird colors and stuff. And like, back then it wasn't like a thing, you know what I mean? It's like, skateboarding's now huge, but like when I was in high school, it's like, there's like 3 or 4 of us, so you were definitely outcast in that way of being, just dressing different and listening to punk rock music and stuff. That wasn't really a big thing in my high school.
Hey, you are looking for a gift. You're just like, you're panicked at this point. You're like, I got to get something for somebody. How about go to rockabilia.com? That is the place where you can buy all of your band merch, solve all of your gifting problems immediately, and I will get you 15% off your order by using this code PC100words. Trust me in saying that this will not only save you money, but it will make your family and friends and whoever you're buying your Christmas gifts for very, very happy, because they offer so much there. I don't care what genre of music that you're into, you will be able to find rad pieces of merch there. And it's all officially licensed stuff. So the band gets paid on it. It's all above board and high quality. They're not printing in it on some trash blanks that you're like, oh man, after one wash, the thing is going to fall apart. Nope. That is not how Rockabilia rolls. It's great, and I love the company, and I will continue to support them until the day that I die, or this podcast dies, but hopefully the podcast before me. So anyways, go to rockabilly.com. PC100 words is the discount code, and then you'll get 15% off and you'll be happy. So go buy band merch for your presents.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I myself am a huge advocate for therapy, and I think that most people would benefit from it because, life just really gets in the way sometime. Whether it's a relationship issue, a family issue, a work issue, you feel overwhelmed. You don't know where to turn to. You're like, I can't bug my family and friends about this. Like maybe I'll be able to, just push through it on my own. You do not need to be alone in this journey. And that is why BetterHelp is such a cool option. They are convenient because it's flexible, affordable, and entirely online. And all you do is fill out a brief questionnaire and you get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. I love what they do, and I would really, really encourage you trying therapy for the first time. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can absolutely help get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/Ray to get 10% off your first month. That is betterhelp.com/Ray. Try therapy, and trust me, it will make your life better.
Big Tobacco targets black and brown communities with tobaccos like menthol, which are harder to quit. Join me and demand Albany end the sales of all flavored tobacco because tobacco kills.
Paid for by the Tobacco Free Kids Action Fund.
Welcome to PlayStar Online Casino, where you are the star of the show. I'll be your personal concierge, here to make sure you get the most out of New Jersey's new real money online casino. To get you started, sign up for an account, and we'll match your first deposit with up to $500 bonus and 500 free spins. After that, enjoy the best slot games around, plus live blackjack, roulette, and more. We look forward to seeing you at playstar.com. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or older within the state of New Jersey to play. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Well, and plus too, I mean, it's like that era, there was this, idea that anything that was, slightly left of center was just this like, well, how the hell did you get into that? Like,
Right.
where did you even find that? Because obviously in the age of the internet, like you can find anything. Whereas like this is definitely like, you either accidentally trip on it, you have your older brothers, there's some, inflection point for you. But, most people just look at that with disdain because it's like, what do you mean? Like you're going to shows on the weekend? Like you're tall, you need to play basketball, dude. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
A funny story about discovering something, like I was like a metalhead and I was just getting into skateboarding. I must have been like 6th or 7th grade. And this kid moves from California to Morristown where I grew up. And he's, California skateboarder, and I become fast friends. And at the time, I didn't really know much about punk rock or anything. So this kid brought over all the California stuff, like Dead Kennedys and DOA, the Nardcore stuff, all that stuff, and started playing it for me. And, when I was listening to metal, like I got into, Metallica and Slayer, like a lot. But some of that stuff seemed like unattainable as a little kid to play, on drums or guitar. It was just like, this stuff is crazy. But he started bringing this punk rock stuff in and turned me on to all that. And when I first heard that stuff, I was like, wow, this sounds more obtainable. I could probably do this, like it's not quite as technical and, and nuts. It just sounds more like normal people making music, that aren't like super talented.
Right.
That was like the turning point for that stuff,
And it's really,
I realized like, oh, I can actually,
do this.
Yeah. Me and my friends could probably make a punk band,
Yeah. Well, I really like you articulating that thought because I think it is one of those things that it becomes, there is such a delineation, especially, in a certain time between, metal and punk. Like, I mean, people can still make that delineation now, but like the idea of, being attainable, it's like, that is such a real thing where, you look at a band and you're like, there's no way that I could do that. But the moment that you see someone, doing something that's just like, oh, like that, it literally sets a light bulb off in your head. And then you're like, oh yeah, I can play those 3 chords.
Yeah. That was exactly it. And I didn't mean to say like that these punk bands were not talented, but just like, it was just
different approach. Yeah.
A totally different approach. It wasn't so, just as technical in my musical mind. And I was like, oh, I could do this. And, to the point that I could actually just write these really simple riffs and teach my friends how to play them on a guitar that have never played guitar before. and I could play the drums. You know what I mean? That's how like one of the first punk bands that I was in started. You know, it's like I would write the riffs and just teach Skip and my other buddy Ed to play these insanely simple riffs, and then we would just make these punk rock songs about hating homework and that kind of shit. You know?
Yeah,
and I would get
as one does.
So it was cool.
Yeah, no, that's rad. Did you care about school? Like, was it one of those things where, you know, you once music clearly started to consume you, that you know, school was very much an afterthought, or how did that kind of, you know, play a role in your life?
School's an absolute afterthought.
Sure.
The second I started playing in bands, and especially when Turning Point, you know, started, that was it. I was like, I didn't give a fuck about school. I was a fuck up. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to get out. Like as soon as I could get out of high school, just get me the fuck out, and I'm going to play music. That was that.
Right.
You know, so yeah, I did not take that serious. You know, hindsight, maybe I should have, but yeah, so at the time it was, yeah, man, like I hated it. I hated being in school. Like I did, you know, the teachers hated me. You know, I didn't feel like I fit in, you know, it just wasn't my thing, you know?
Right. Did you get,
most of the people I went to high school with, a lot of them, it's like, I felt like they knew exactly what they're going to do. It's like, all right, I'm going to go to college for 4 years. I'll party. Then I'll meet my wife. I'll get my house and the picket fence and move on. And that's, you know, probably what most of them did. And that just did not fucking appeal to me at all. It's like, you know, shit, I'm 49 right now. I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but,
right.
You know, just like that thing was just, it was just not my scene. Like yeah, for me.
Right. Did you, like, I mean, like, were you getting like, you know, C's and D's? Like, were you, I guess, kind of like passing?
I did just enough to get by. And I didn't know I was going to graduate till the day before graduation. I thought they're going to keep me back. And it was like, you know, me and like two of my other friends were like, fuck, I guess we're not graduating. And they were just sick of us, you know, just like, fucking just pass them, like get them out of here.
Yeah.
You know, we like
got our ropes in.
Like literally got the phone call. It's like, all right, you can come. It's like, all right, cool. So, you know what I mean? That's really how I went through my high school years.
Got it.
Like all I was fucking music and skateboarding, like, and hanging out with my friends. That was all I cared about.
Sure. I'm guessing because of that, you know, the lack of discipline with school, you know, did that cause friction at the household where it's just like, Jay, you were such, like, what are you doing with your life? Like, you know, you got to get better grades.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably why my father, you know, was the way he was. He wasn't really happy with what I was doing, you know, or how I was doing.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess understandable, but,
right. You're like, well, this is what I care about, and this is what I want to try to figure out to do, whatever that may be.
It wasn't like I was some kind of like burnout fucking loser, you know, like, you know, I was in like a fucking straight edge band and I was doing shit, you know what I mean? I was putting records out. And,
yeah.
You know, it's not like I was like some, you know, dude was just like sitting on a couch, you know what I mean? Like playing Pac-Man all fucking day or something. It was like, I was out doing shit, like, you know, creative stuff, but he just didn't see anything in that. So.
Well, yeah, and it's also really difficult to, I mean, it's something that you can't possibly articulate at that age, being like, you know, like, hey, booking a show is giving me real life skills. It's like, you know, that's
yeah.
Right. It's not quantifiable, especially when you're talking about like, you know, a different generation that clearly has no idea of like, well, yeah, if you play in a band, like you're touring in a tour bus, like, you know, there's this huge thing, but it's like, that's not what we're doing here.
No, not even close. But
yeah,
this is just talking about family growing up, and like, you know, you've interviewed countless musicians, and I'm sure 95% of them are like, you know, will say, oh, there's so much music in my household. My parents listen to music. And the funny thing about my parents, there's no fucking music in our house. Like they listened to talk radio. That was it. They never played, you know, besides my brothers, there's never a record player, or they had like a little clock radio in the kitchen that would play this one station. You know, there's just all talk radio stuff, you know? So that was it's kind of weird how like we all became so obsessed with music when it really wasn't present in our household.
Right. And it's funny too, because some people get attracted to music when it's vacant in the house because it's like kind of a forbidden fruit sort of thing.
Right.
but the way that all you guys got into it was very much like, oh no, like this is, yeah, it's not played in the house, but like once we're exposed to it, it's like, dude, there's no turning back.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, as you started to, go through high school and like you said, start to, form your first bands and kind of get that experience, like playing shows and stuff like that. Was it, I guess, was it what you expected? Like, playing a show and stuff like that? Or was it, did it exceed your expectations, or was it surprising in any respects?
I guess like the first, real show besides, playing like somebody's backyard, like ranch
Sure.
or something, was with the first band that me and Skippy had called Pointless, where I played drums and she was playing bass. And we got booked to play this club in Philly called Club Pizzazz. It's where all the hardcore shows were at. And the promoter, Chuck Meehan, like we had sent him our little demo cassette tape, and we were super young. And, we went there. I think the first show we saw there was Dag Nasty on the Can I Say tour. And we would just go every weekend because it was, it didn't matter who was playing it, whatever hardcore matinee, we just go. So that was like the spot. And we sent cassette to the promoter, and he actually called us up and he's like, I really like this. And he put us on the show with, I think, Ignition. So we're like over the moon. Like, we're going to play this Club Pizzazz. Like, this is going to be great. And every show we went there, usually it was like pretty packed. So, our parents had to drive our gear there and stuff. And we set up, and it turns out that same night at City Gardens, which was in New Jersey, a much bigger venue, it was like The Exploited, DRI, somebody else, like one of this huge punk rock shows. Like, our show was not really that well attended. And it was kind of like a bummer, because we were like, well, we made it. We're playing Club Pizzazz, but then there's only maybe like 40 people there. So like a little bit of a downer, but once Turning Point started, we started like, for some reason the shows were just great from the get go, and so that was like really easy to get sucked into doing it. You know what I mean? Because it was like the scene was just kind of happening, and we booked a show and people showed up, and everybody had a blast. So we were hooked from there.
Right. It was off to the races,
yeah.
And it's so. That era of hardcore, clearly gets a lot of attention, and people have focused on it for many, many years after the fact. And the thing that I always find so interesting and funny is that since it was such a short burst, like, most of the bands from that particular era, maybe released a couple of full lengths, maybe were around for longer than 2 years, but it gets a lot of people look at that time as being like, the golden era of hardcore. And I find it so funny because it's like, Turning Point, like, you guys existed for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a very long time, but
not at all.
But just the fact that, you, like, I guess the question here is, when you guys, started to kind of, pound the pavement and, play shows and kind of do all that, was it, I guess, kind of like a mission or a focus to like do as much as humanly possible? Or was it just like, oh, we're just saying yes to these opportunities as they're coming up?
Yeah, I think we were just saying yes as the thing came up. Like, we weren't, we didn't have like any kind of mission statement or anything,
Sure.
We're, like, it's like two dudes that, met in kindergarten, became best friends, and discovered punk rock together. And I'd already started, learning drums and playing guitar. And I had played in like this thrash metal band that were like with some older kids that kind of taught me a little bit about playing in a band. And after me and Skip just, after that band, I was like, me and you should make a band because, you're my best friend, and why the fuck not? And that's how we did it. And from that point on, there was nothing, we never sat down and tried to scheme anything. It was just like, let's just make music that we enjoy and have fucking fun. And we were lucky that some people gave a fuck about it, which.
Right. And did you, I know this may be a difficult thing to answer, but like, when did you feel, I guess, like people were paying attention to you, as far as like Turning Point was concerned, where it's like, was it kind of immediately after that first show, or was it, after you had released the demo and it was like, oh, wow, there's kids that we don't know that are singing along? Like, what was, do you have kind of, a moment or two that stuck out to you?
Well, yeah, we recorded the demo at my old drum teacher's place, like in an afternoon.
Sure.
And my older brother, put together some artwork for us. And I forget I don't know if we stuck an ad in Maximum Rock and Roll or just, just started passing around to people. And then, somehow Darren Walters, of J Tree, just pre J Tree, he got a little bit and asked us, contacted me. I was like, "You want to do a 7-inch?" And we're just like, "Well, yeah, fuck yeah." So he gave us a couple bucks to do that. And it was from that moment on, it's like we'd go to these shows and kids that you didn't know were singing the songs. And it was just like mind blowing. It's like the first time it happened, it was like, I remember we played the show in Kennett Square and in Pennsylvania. And it was like a bunch of kids there, just kind of going crazy and knowing all the words. And it was just like that was the moment. It was like, oh, wow, I guess we're on to something here. Like, this is cool. Let's keep going.
I'm excited to tell you about an extremely heavy record that just came out from a band called Within the Ruins. The record is called Black Heart, that just came out this past Friday, the 27th of November. And this thing's heavy, man. Like, I'm going to play you a snippet of one of their songs, and it will get you in the mood for checking out the whole record, because I believe that this is their 6th full length. They've been doing this for a while, and they are the real deal. And I think they're firing off all cylinders on this record. So let's check a little bit of it out, and then I'll talk to you in a moment. Okay. Heavy, right? Like heavy, proggy, like they got a lot of stuff going on. And the fact that these guys are in so deep to their career and are still creating really, really progressive music is heartening, because sometimes bands just, kind of dial it in after a while. But these guys, Within the Ruins, are not one of those bands. So like I said, you can stream this and buy this wherever you consume music, and you need to check it out. It's called Black Heart. The band is called Within the Ruins. And just get heavy with it, okay? So thank you very much to E1 for releasing this record and for supporting this very show.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Trust me in saying that therapy is an incredible tool for as you are traveling through life, because who you are as a person, 5 or 10 years ago is maybe a completely different version of yourself, because we run into challenges, whether it's work, whether it's life stuff, relationships. All of those things you can work through with a therapist, and that is why I love BetterHelp and what they do. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, and then you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Ray to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Ray. Dip in, give therapy a try, and become a better person.
Big Tobacco targets black and brown communities with tobaccos like menthol, which are harder to quit. Join me and demand Albany end the sales of all flavored tobacco, because tobacco kills.
Paid for by the Tobacco Free Kids Action Fund.
Welcome to PlayStar Online Casino, where you are the star of the show. I'll be your personal concierge, here to make sure you get the most out of New Jersey's new real money online casino. To get you started, sign up for an account, and we'll match your first deposit with up to $500 bonus and 500 free spins. After that, enjoy the best slot games around, plus live blackjack, roulette, and more. We look forward to seeing you at playstar.com. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or older within the state of New Jersey to play. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Did you guys kind of feel, I guess for lack of a better term, like kind of plugged into that scene? Like, did you feel, I guess, like welcome as you started to, kind of play shows and understand, kind of where you sat in this, like whatever, this era of, kind of post, the New York City hardcore scene, like, but, clearly that was still happening. Like, so did you feel at home in any respects?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. We never felt like we were really a huge part of any one scene, like
Sure.
or like an integral part of anyone's scene. I mean, we're huge fans of the New York hardcore stuff. That goes without saying. But yeah, we always kind of felt like we were kind of doing our own thing, but it all kind of worked out that we did, fit in enough to become part of the, of that hardcore scene, like the East Coast,
Right.
where we could go up and down the East Coast and play shows and be well received, and have a good time. So
sure. What's the this may be a very basic question, but I personally do not know. What was the longest that you guys, I guess, like went out for as far as a tour is concerned?
we never did a proper tour.
Sure. Right. It was always just like weekends and stuff, right?
Yeah, we would do weekends because even Ken, the drummer, he was the oldest guy in the band at the time. You know what I mean? And he got out of high school and he started working.
Right.
And he got a job, hanging drywall or whatever, in that contracting kind of field. And we got offers to go out to California, but at the time it was like, there was no guarantee of making money and stuff. And, for him, it was just like, I can't do that. I got a job, like,
right. Yeah. I can't play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like that's,
more like I can't go away for a month. You know what I mean? I can't just jump in a van for a month and just drive around the country,
right.
Not knowing if I'm going to make, if we're going to make any money or anything, So we actually never did it. I regret it. I wish we did, but we did our, we played up and down the East Coast. That's
right.
really it. We never branched out, outside PA and stuff, but like, we never made it to the Midwest or any of that, I would love to have played California. I mean, I have since, but
right.
Now those times are probably cool because, we played with Chain of Strength a lot and, those guys were super cool and it would have been cool to go out and do shows with those guys on the West Coast.
Right.
But, just never happened.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the circumstances. And plus, like you were saying, it's not like there was really any sort of blueprint for anybody to kind of point to be like, oh, hey, Ken, like maybe if you just took a couple of months off, like we'd be able to do this. It's right, not like, right. There's nothing.
And to be honest, and I'm sure it was like this with most of the bands, it was like, there wasn't like a promoter contacting us being like, hey, I'll set up this tour. It's like, if you did it your fucking self. Like you got on the phone and you know what I mean? Like there was nobody like asking us to do it. So if you do it, it was, you had to put in all the work and stuff. And it was just like, it's kind of like a shot in the dark. Like maybe this will work or, maybe it won't,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, there's obviously elements of that still exist, but just
I've lived it, with the band,
of course,
and through, after, doing like 6-week cross country tours and, you know what I mean? It's like, there's a lot of nights that are pretty fucking dismal sometimes,
Right. And your experience, I mean, since you have both of the experiences of what you're talking about with Turning Point and then, everything that you have done ever since then, of the touring aspect, like, did you, I guess kind of like playing those, like weekend shows with Turning Point and stuff like that and having that, I guess that close proximity to where, you could be at home in a couple of days, or did you, like learn to enjoy the the 6-week run, like being gone, that sort of stuff?
I love touring. Yeah. It's like, it's fun. Back when the Turning Point doing like long weekends and stuff, it was like, that's all I knew. You know what I mean? I'd never been on a tour, so I didn't know how to, I never really thought of how I would compare the two.
Sure.
But, it was never a thought of like, when you're a kid, it's like, you don't care about being fucking home. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah. I never got homesick, if we were away for 4 or 5 days. But, when you get older and you're out for 6 weeks, sometimes you're like, it would be nice to be home, but,
right.
But yeah, I really I just enjoy playing music. So like, if I go on a long tour or a weekend, or just a one-off show, it's like, I'm ready. I'm down for it,
Yeah, for sure. With the the idea that clearly, as you start to play shows and sell 7 inches and sell shirts and stuff like that, like, clearly there's money coming in and, the business creeps in, even though you're not like, viewing it as business. That's just like the fuel that keeps the band going or whatever. Did that,
like, were you, I guess, comfortable with that aspect of the fact that, like you were making a little money off this? I mean, when I say making a little money, it's like, yeah, you were, filling up the gas tank and stuff like that. But, how did the kind of, I guess the commerce side of, the quote unquote music business, as it were, affect you or have an opinion on?
I mean, in that era, it's like any money that was made, via T-shirts or a show or whatever, it was all just put right back into the band.
Yeah.
Like none of us ever took a payment. You know what I mean? Even when we played shows, like if we made, like, let's say with T-shirts in the show, you made $500-600. It just went back into the band to make the next record, or for gas, or for I own the van, but we would help make the van payments with that, and if people needed to fix their gear or whatever, it's like we just kind of had like a band kitty that all that money would go into, and what I mean? So it was never that much money to the point that, we could, pay ourselves really,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Besides, like, hey guys, let's go to McDonald's for $15 or whatever.
Yeah. Buy a pizza. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was pretty much it,
Right. And so, as you started to, have the band, winded down and everything like that, was there, I guess any thought process on like, well, clearly, the band is not going to be my vehicle for making money, and like the sort of life path started to kind of be like, well, what am I going to do? Was there any kind of wrestling around in your head? I mean, I know you just joked around earlier where it's like, I'm 49 and I still have no clue what I'm doing. But was there any kind of like, oh yeah, like maybe I'll do this, but obviously music is always going to be a part of my life and I'll try to do it as much as humanly possible?
It's funny, man. No, I've always, to this day, like I've always just had kind of punk rock jobs. Just like, I just need the mental space to create music. So I've always kind of just found something. I've somehow made it this long, without any actual career. You know what I mean? Like I worked in a record store for years, worked in music venues for years, selling music stuff on eBay. You know what I mean? Like I've always just kind of found a way to, to get by.
Sure.
Without having some kind of corporate job or anything. It's just like, listen, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just something like I see people do it, and they make good money, but it's just not for me. Same, I was talking about like high school and stuff. There's some things I'm just not cut out for. And that's one of them, like chasing, like climbing some, corporate ladder or something. Like I'm never going to be a guy to put on fucking khakis and, and get a proper haircut, and you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just not, it's just not for me. And like, I assume, as I get older, and I'm old, sometimes it gets a little scary, but it is what it is, like I'll figure it out as it comes,
Sure. Well, and I mean, I think there is that idea of structuring your life around, music, where it's like, okay, I'm going to take these quote unquote, transitionary jobs and just be like, well, I want them because this is the fuel to my fire, and it's like the part that is sad is when you see people that have that fuel and then they feel like they need to completely extinguish it in order to like quote unquote join the real world or whatever. It's right. Like that's what sucks.
Yeah, that's the point. Is and like listen, that happens to most people that play music, and it totally makes sense, but it's just never made sense to me. Like it scares the shit out of me, to be honest. Like the thought of having to do, like to just like give this up, stop playing music, stop being creative, just to go, be a cog in a wheel somewhere. It's just not my thing. Like
right.
So it's, yeah. So
it's not part. Yeah. Not part of your plan. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, I mean, that is a view that has been instilled, via the independent music scene that, we're a part of. It's like, you have to follow your own path, whatever that may mean, whether that's like, oh yes, I'm a straight edge vegan person, or, I am an atheist, or I am not going to subscribe to corporate culture. It's like, whatever is finding, whatever is giving you that life, like that's what you got to hold on to as long as humanly possible.
Yeah. And, for me, it's like the passion to create it's real. It's not, it's just something that I have to do. So I do whatever else I can do to facilitate doing music and creating, because that's, it's like there's music in my head all the time. It's almost like a fucking sickness. But I'm constantly thinking of music, like songs, and so I have to get it out. It's like, and it's also one of the only things I actually enjoy. So,
right, yeah, no, I get it.
I'm a lifer.
Yeah, dude, I completely understand. Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't punish you about Godspeed, because I definitely know I don't even recall if I purchased a Swimmer's Ear EP knowing that there was a connection to Turning Point at all. I just remember hearing it and just being like, oh God, I love this. And like, it was so, and then retroactively, I think putting the pieces together, be like, oh, these are the guys from Turning Point or whatever. Godspeed, you guys played what, like 6 shows? Like, it was like, if that.
Maybe 10 or 12, but not.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. And the fact that anybody remembers it is, I'm sure surprising to you, because you're just like, this is such a small blip. But what do you reflect on, like when people bring up Godspeed to you? Is it just one of those things where it's like, wow, I'm so glad it lives on, or what does that make you feel?
No, I'm super glad it lives on, and I think the connection, definitely is from, it's like, oh, this is the band that Jay and Skip made after they broke up Turning Point. You know what I mean? So that I think that hangs on to it. But as far as that band, it was just like, we decided that nobody cared about Turning Point anymore. So, me and Skip were definitely not done making music together, and we just, started writing. It's almost like the Godspeed stuff is kind of what Turning Point probably would have became if we stayed together, musically, And
right.
As a guitar player, I was just advancing, and to the point that I didn't want to just smash out power chords and stuff, and just advancing my playing and songwriting, and it's just a natural progression. It was like kind of just it really just went from Turning Point, just flowed right into that, like without much thought, between me and Skip.
Yeah. And honestly, once I made that connection, personally, it definitely felt like one of those things like, oh yeah, like this is easily what Turning Point could have sounded like if you put out another thing.
Right.
Yeah. But that's, yeah.
It's basically the band, like, Turning Point broke up, and, through the punk rock scene, there was like this other, punk rock band called Misunderstood that we had played some shows with, and became friends with their drummer, and their drummer was just like, he was just like, our age, young dude, but he was just an amazing drummer. And when Turning Point broke, I was like, me and Skip were like, we got to get this dude, like, let's start another band, and, and get this guy on drums. And sure enough, we asked him, and he said, yeah. And, and then the band was created,
Right. Yeah. No, that's cool. I always love that idea of like when you meet a person or see a person play, and then you're just like, we got to figure out something to work with this. Like we got to figure out how to make this happen.
Yeah, I got to get that dude in my band. Yeah. Like,
right. Totally. It's like, even though I just watched them play in a band, I got to figure out how to play with them.
Yeah, I got to steal this dude.
Totally. And it happens so many times where it's like, and not nefariously. Usually, it's like, you're whatever, a 22-year-old person, and you're just like, oh, I just want to be creative with this person.
Yeah. Well, I think I ran into him in like a mall parking lot one day.
Yeah.
We obviously knew each other. I was like, hey, me and Skip are looking to start this band, and if you'd be interested in playing drums. And he was like, yeah, I'll think about it, talk about it. And, maybe a month or two later, we started jamming together, and that was that.
That's so awesome. I'm going to guess this is a total silly, yet I don't know. I'm just very curious myself, because I always find, like you were talking about, when you record the Turning Point demo and like, whatever, an afternoon. And I'm sure the full length that Turning Point recorded, you guys probably, Mike Hartsfield probably gave you guys like $2,000 to record it or something like that. Like, what's the most that you had during that time to spend on a recording?
1,000. You're being way generous. I think it was like $500.
I love it. I love it.
You know, seriously.
Yeah. And plus, I'm sure, I mean, most people still have that experience where, like, you know, they go into a studio and, you know, the engineer, producer, whatever you want to call them, like, has no context for hardcore or heavy music in any capacity. So, like, they're just kind of like, wait, you're yelling? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, well, at the studio that we did the full length at, we had, you know, cut a couple like comp tracks there, but I think, yeah, we were definitely the first. Well, actually, we did the 7-inch at this place in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and we showed up, and this guy had no idea what he was in for as far as hardcore music. You know, he looked like he was like a Bon Jovi fucking roadie. You know, we all come in, you know, and we start playing, and this dude was just. I think he just wanted to get us out as fast as he could. You know what I mean? Like, that sounded great. You know what I mean? Like next,
Totally.
Yeah, like, but the guys that, you know, at YME, Joe DeLuca and Dave Kloss that did the full length and all the other stuff, they were just like the nicest guys. Like, they didn't know what we were doing, but they fucking liked it. You know what I mean? Like, they were into the energy of it, and you know, they were just really super, super cool about it. Like, so. That's why we end up doing a lot. You know, I ended up working with those guys for years, you know, on a bunch of music. And so it was cool. But yeah, our budget was $500, man.
So good.
You know, we had $2,000. We could have made, like, you know, like Hardcore The Wall, like Pink Floyd. Yeah.
Right. You guys could have knocked out. Yeah. Like four LPs. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. I just always love that, because it's like anytime you look at you know, any of these projects that like leave a legacy, whether it's a full length or 7-inch, and like, if you attach it to a dollar amount, it's just always like, oh dude, that's hilarious. Like, or the time spent where it's like, oh yeah, we did it in, you know, a weekend.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Yeah.
I remember Darren from you know, he posted a picture of like the invoice for like the first 7 inches that he got pressed. I think he got, I don't know, like 1,000 of them, and I forget the actual number, but like the cost was like $350. You know what I mean? It was like, what the cost of the record is like under $1. You know, it's like, you know, that's why you could sell 7 inches for $3 back then and make a profit.
Right.
You see that old shit, you're just like, God damn. Like, you know.
Yeah. You're like, I understand inflation, but holy moly.
Yeah. The past 2 records that I've put out, I've paid for the pressing myself, you know, total DIY shit. And it's like, man, it don't cost that anymore. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially doing this crazy colored vinyl. Holy moly.
Yeah.
When did you kind of, you know, as you have, you know, been clearly, like you were talking about before, you know, active in music and still putting out, you know, a variety of projects of a variety of different sounds. When did it kind of become apparent to you that, you know, there was this kind of like looming legacy of Turning Point, you know, and like the music that you have participated in? You know, was it, like, I'm sure it didn't just like come like one day you woke up and all of a sudden like, oh wow, I got some fan mail or something like that. But like, when did you kind of recognize that there was a resonance beyond what you kind of originally thought, you know, the band's quote unquote legacy would be?
I think, well, you know, I guess I was on tour one time with my band Lanola, and you know, you know, through my whole life with Skip, we were best friends our whole, you know, until the day he passed. And I'd at least speak to him or hang with him once a week. When I was on the road, I'd talk to him, you know, at least once a week. I'd call him up. And one day he called me up and he was like, hey, I'm thinking about putting Turning Point back together, you know, and going to Europe, because everybody's saying like we could go to Europe and make a bunch of money, not a bunch of money, but play good shows. And, you know, he was like really into it. And I wasn't into it at the time, you know, and he was just asking if he had my blessing to go do it, you know, without me. And I was like, sure, man, if you want to do it, you know, like, cause I was really into the band that I was touring with, and, you know, just didn't have the time or even think about it. And part of me was like, really, like, you could go over there and people are going to give a shit. But I guess it was true, you know? And when Jade Tree approached us about putting out discography, I mean, I think that was like a much more personal thing for Darren, because the first record he ever put out was the Turning Point 7-inch, and then he turned it into a whole career, you know, which was cool. But, you know, but when they approached us about doing that, I was like, wow, I guess this does have some legs. You know what I mean? Like, people actually kind of really care. You know, and so I knew it was something, and people liked it. But I guess it was 2016, really, when we played This Is Hardcore. I was like, oh, fuck, you know.
Yeah. You're like, this is, and I'm sure, like,
well, meeting kids from all over the fucking world, you know what I mean? Like coming up and, hugging me and shaking my hand, like, kids from Russia and fucking, like that traveled 27 hours to come see us play for 30 minutes, you know what I mean? And it's
right.
like, wow, what this is, I guess this really, really stuck with some people. So it's like super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does make sense that you would, see it so viscerally, in the idea of playing a show, because it's like the fact that, people invested, like you said, so much time and effort and money into, getting there, and then understanding that it's like, oh yes, like this, like it can be this one song that just all of it, like, will speak to you and will carry you through your life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. That's like the cool thing about, that's the best thing about music,
Yeah, totally. And plus too, like the idea that, once you put your art out in the world, whatever that may mean, it's clearly not yours anymore. It's everybody else's. And you don't know what that will manifest into.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody that plays music or, that gets serious about it, even in like a little bit, the dream is to create something, a song, a record, and whatever that like leaves a little something behind, you know what I mean? So that leave some kind of like little legacy or so when you're gone, people still remember you. Like you're not just this kind of blip that disappears. And I feel really lucky that that's happened on, in a couple of my bands that, made some stuff that enough people care about, that'll live on, and
yeah,
Turning Point is definitely one of them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've kind of answered this question previously, but with all of your musical projects, and like because you've done such a wide variety of things, from synth indie rock to obviously the thrash metal stuff you're doing right now with Honey, why? I know you feel a compulsion to create, and like you said, you build your life around that. But why do you still care in regards to consuming new music and stuff like that? Because, people can still like, I guess, kind of like care but be stuck in like either their era or be like, oh yeah, like I stopped listening to new music after 2005 or something like that, but you are still so, active and you pay attention to it and, you seemingly care about it. Where does that compulsion come from besides, I guess what you were originally talking about of just being like, well, I'm going to do this regardless?
Well, I think just like this drive that I have to create music keeps me interested in music. Like I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear what people are doing now, and hopefully have that influence me, as much as the stuff, that I loved in the past. And like the idea of like just being stuck in one era of, music, like, I don't know how people do it, that only listen to, the late 80s, early 90s hardcore. I love that shit, but I couldn't, that's all I could listen to, I go crazy. But, I just want to hear what's happening. And I love discovering new music. It's, it's how I ended up, I ended up working in a music venue doing, lighting for live shows for, until this pandemic hit. That's what I was doing.
Sure.
And it was cool. It's like, I will say a lot of times I hated it because, it's just a lot of bands suck, or not what I'm into. But every once in a while,
right.
like, some band would come I never fucking heard of and like just blow me away. And it was just like, still like being sometimes it's like being a kid, like when you first went to your first shows, just like, wow, this is really cool. So, I still get that same feeling, when I discover new music, it makes me feel young again,
Yeah.
I get the goal.
No, it's awesome. I like that you describing that feeling, because I think that does like with the moment that you kind of remove yourself from it, you remove the chance of you getting that feeling, that feeling of finding the new thing. And that's, of course, like as you get older, like you're talking about, like because you've been exposed to so much music, it's, that feeling may be less and less as when you were 15 and everything was new, but
yeah,
if you remove yourself, you're never going to feel it.
Well, that's the funny thing. I mean, I'm in the middle of recording a new record with my band Honey right now.
Sure.
We're like 3 weeks into this recording, which is crazy to think. Like we, used to make records in 2 days.
Right. Yeah, you're like 3 weeks, dude. This is like way too long.
Yeah. Like this will be like a 5-6 week endeavor. But anyway, it's like, the COVID thing hit, and, everything was kind of going good for me, until that happened. And it's like lockdown happened, and obviously you go into like a dark, you get depressed, and I can't play music. I can't see my bandmates, can't do anything. My job's pretty much gone.
Right.
But like, somehow like during this COVID is like, when we Turning Point signed the stuff with Revelation, which is cool, like super fucking cool. And I signed a record deal for Honey, like with a small label called Hellminded out of New Jersey, And I was like, wow, this is pretty fucking cool. And we started making the record. And the first night I was in the studio with my bandmates, working on, just scratch guitar for drums. And this thing came over me. I was like, it was like the first time I felt fucking pure happiness since COVID hit. I didn't realize it, but it was like, wow, like, what is this feeling? Like I was like, oh, like everything went away. It's like I fucking felt pure joy again, like happiness, and like that's what music gives to me. So
yeah,
like that's why I keep chasing it.
That's beautiful, man. I'd love to hear that, because it definitely is like when you get in that, it's that like whatever what athletes say, like when you're in that quote unquote zone, it's like that's the feeling, man, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a wild thing that happens, for me anyway. It's like, I'm not like a depressed, I'm not like a mopey depressed kind of dude, but shit happens and you get into, you get depressed in dark spots, but like it's always been, writing a song or playing a guitar that gets me out of it. So that's what.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I want to hit on was the, balancing the feeling, and this is a difficult thing, as, bands get kind of, like you were talking about, where once you put the art out in the world, people kind of take it and obviously do what they want with it, and, say that this band was overrated, this band was underrated, whatever the case may be. How do you personally kind of balance the feeling of kind of, nostalgia of like, oh man, like those were the days, like, that is an important part of life, obviously, and being proud of what you've done, but then not being like overly nostalgic to where, it kind of cripples. I mean, it's not necessarily for you because you are, still being very, very creative and being prolific in your music world. But I'm sure you've witnessed, other people that get kind of trapped into that, feeling of nostalgia and not ever, like, I guess, moving past that.
Yeah. I mean, the nostalgia thing is great. And, I will say I enjoy it, like looking back on all of it. But like for me, like the weird thing with Turning Point is that, it's like we lost Skip in 2002, my best friend, it's like, so we made this music together, but he wasn't just a singer in my band. He was like a brother. So for me, it's like he passed, and people lose their friends all the time. It's not like this like uncommon thing, but I have this like beautiful thing that like I can hear him anytime I want, like I can put on a record and there he is, and like the pictures and all that kind of stuff. So like for me, it's like, yeah, it is nostalgia, but it's also, it helps me remember him and keep his, his life alive, or his memory. So like, it's a little bit more nostalgia for me.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a really, especially, with Turning Point, because of,
you think like there's people that have, their best buddy, lifelong best friend passes away, but they didn't create anything together, which is totally, that's just life. But I was, somehow lucky enough that we did all this shit together, that I can look back and see and hear, and all these other people appreciate it. So it just, like, yeah, it's definitely nostalgia, but for me, it's like a little bit more than that.
No, that's really
like, I'm still creating, I'm still doing stuff. It's like, I'm not like sitting back like, well, yep, I did this one band that people like, and, that's all I did. It's like,
right.
I'm still doing it,
Yeah. And I know, I think
there's only been 6 months in my whole life since I joined my first band. I was thinking about this the other day. There's only been 6 months that I have not been in a band since I was like, from like, I guess like 8th or 9th grade till now I'm 49 years old. So. Yeah,
no, that's really cool. And I appreciate you articulating that, because I do think that, it's a really important piece to Turning Point, where it's like, it's not only is this, really crystallized experience, important musically and important in a lot of different ways, but then, mostly for you, just being like, yeah, this is keeping my friend's legacy alive. Like this is what he was proud of, and this is what I am proud of, and I want this to live on, and not in the like, oh yeah, we're trapped in time sort of scenario.
Yeah, that's why, this Revelation thing is like just, for me, it's like super fucking cool because like, now it's like in the perfect home where it should, where we wanted it to be when we were kids, or dreamed it to be. But, like landing in the perfect place, and it's going to help keep what he did alive and available to kids, like, for years and years to come. So,
yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, Jay, thank you so much, dude. I honestly really appreciate you going all over the place with me. But yeah, thank you for what you do, man.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
There we go. That was Jay. And thank you very much for the time, Jay. I really do appreciate it. I just hit him up on Instagram, the beautiful connective tissue that is Instagram. And we were able to schedule this chat, and it was great. So like I said, Turning Point's reissuing all of their stuff on Revelation Records. So go to revhq.com. Is that even a site? I can't remember if they changed their URL or not, but just Google Revelation Records and you'll be able to find it very easily. Next week is the week that many of you have reached out to me to say, hey, is this coming this year? It is the best of 2020 with my good friends Jeremy Boehm and Joey Cahill of Touche Amore and 6131 Records, respectively. We've been doing this for years and years and years, and it's so much fun. I can't wait to bring it to you. That's what we got next week. So strap in, because it's like over 2-hour episode. Oh man. And even like our significant others were like, who listens to you guys talk about music for over 2 hours? And I'm like, well, a lot of people. So anyways, that's what we got next week. Until then, please be safe, everybody.
Millions of Planet Fitness members are defeating low energy and finding their big fitness energy. And right now, you can join them for just $1 down and $10 a month. That's so nice, I think I'll say it twice. You can join Planet Fitness for $1 down and $10 a month. No commitment. Cancel anytime. What a deal! Join the judgment-free zone today and enjoy tons of equipment in a clean and spacious club. $1 down, $10 a month. No commitment. Cancel anytime. Deal ends Wednesday, April 5th. See Home Club for details.
Big Tobacco targets black and brown communities with tobaccos like menthol, which are harder to quit. Join me and demand Albany end the sales of all flavored tobacco, because tobacco kills.
Paid for by the Tobacco Free Kids Action Fund.
Welcome to PlayStar Online Casino, where you are the star of the show. I'll be your personal concierge, here to make sure you get the most out of New Jersey's new real money online casino. To get you started, sign up for an account, and we'll match your first deposit with up to $500 bonus and 500 free spins. After that, enjoy the best slot games around, plus live blackjack, roulette, and more. We look forward to seeing you at playstar.com.
Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or older within the state of New Jersey to play. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.